I can't cope with anything. By Alan Fashion. Why everyone needs to lower their expectations. Really, if you were a man and your life were a Hollywood movie, what would be your reward? The reward, as in all Hollywood movies, is you get the girl or the money. You get a girl who understands and values you for whom you are and what you have done. Also, you get a girl who laughs at your jokes and reminiscences. And she supports your career ambitions and listens to you talk about work. As well, you have plenty of sex in between anything else you do. She is a nymphomaniac and always willing to please you. And she groans with pleasure when you have sex as though no other man could ever take your place. Yet this is no longer true. Reading the newspapers, there are new economic superpowers and the West may become an economic backwater in 20 years' time. It no longer makes sense to talk about careers, entrepreneurship and such like when there will be less of them or not as good. Men with money will be men who can go between two different cultures, such as business people from other countries who do business here. As well, the West will not be so politically powerful. So careers in government will not have such importance. The same is true for the West no longer being a leader in scientific research. Nor will universities in the West be leaders of the academic world or provide a world-beating education. Someone with money is likely to come from another country and anyone with anything to do, say or be, is likely to come from another country. Yet some men who are not realistic still cling to old ambitions. What were your expectations anyway? The reward of the girl you would get would be either the girl next door or someone who had done something exciting in her own right. She would have the same interests and hobbies and similar job and life expectations. Whatever she had done or whatever your romance before marriage, many men think that after they married, his wife would cook a meal for them when they came in from work and they would raise children. Why some in particular need to lower their expectations? Some people worry about political involvement, campaigning for change and a better society, for a better understanding of the arts, better education, internet access, better healthcare and more therapy for everyone. And they watch the news for hours every day, stay on their computer writing and going online, and they read whole libraries of books on social issues. All the time, they are munching snacks while they do not take any exercise. There are, it seems, more pressing problems on their mind. Learning to lower expectations. At school, many were given explanations that underneath people are all the same, treat others as you would like someone to treat you, and other easy to understand explanations of the world and how to behave. However, the newspapers and TV news for some seem to say there was more to it than offered by these explanations. Some may find it helpful to go back to these explanations any way they can. This is even at the risk of sounding not politically as astute. Or it is whatever else is stopping them. It may still work for some, and there is as well some truth in these explanations. Or, at least, people might not feel they need to try too hard to find more explanations. Some people cannot cope with changes in society because they see themselves as being sidelined and nobody will need them anymore. Nor will they have the privileged life that before they had. Someone else will make money like they used to do and do the jobs they used to do. As well, other people will be the entrepreneurs, the people who matter and the people who are important to everyone. But still, people don't always think this is true. Perhaps, they see themselves as good workers that will still find employment. Or they had their political and social educations some time ago, and so they see older, out-of-date explanations for things in newspapers. Alternately, they just don't let things they hear worry them. This may be from long practice, as blanking things out is a technique many do in fact have to reduce unwanted feelings of physical stress. Possibly, the truth is just a bit boring. And so people are not interested. It is in the newspapers. But they miss it. Pernicious false ideas because of newspapers are such as, the country is still great, people at home are entrepreneurial just like they used to be, or the economy will continue to expand. True ideas are a reduced economy and political power in the future for the West, and business people and companies from other countries doing increasing business here. Possibly, men, in particular, have had to keep all their status anxiety, worries about the future and political change bottled up inside. They see professional counselors but do not always get the answers they want. A professional counselor cannot answer some questions as for professional reasons they cannot answer questions that are not psychological but cultural and political. Or it is just that some men never get around to reading any decent books. Or they have pernicious ideas that get in the way of a proper understanding. The reason they don't properly understand is drinking, drugs, accidents and bar fights, etc. That means some men and some women as well do not have the mental wherewithal to do any reading. And nor can they keep things in mind they do read. Many explanations to worries are really quite long and complicated. But what someone says they need is some easy to understand advice and counseling about particular worries that they have. Yet their problems are life or caused by politics or social change. It is no wonder these people also worry about not having an easy ride in the future, about competition for jobs and the economy. In the end, people that do not have the mental wherewithal to make good conversation or talk for a long time about something may have problems with relationships. As well, they find computers hard to cope with and any creative arts hobby hard to cope with. These all really involve learning and solving problems. Learning is stressful for anyone who finds it hard to learn, understand ideas and concepts and remember facts. Many students, even with professional teachers and counselors, find learning stressful, but learning is particularly stressful for anyone that has poor resources, lack of advice, and if there is any reason that they generally cope less well anyway. The press often set up problems by talking about them, but when people suggest solutions, some miss it. Yet overcoming a general fear people have that they won't be able to cope even with the mundane and ordinary might help in coping overall. Examples of coping strategies that have helped people before are doing more exercise, buying new clothes, better grooming and other ones. As well, anything a worried person does that is interesting and does not need mental effort, or it is not something they can't do, is worthwhile. The cause of worries about sex and relationships and coping with cultural activities, understanding things you read and anything else you don't understand or worry about is that someone's mind is not as good as it once was, or not as good as anyone would want. This is due to drinking, etc. It makes it hard for them to think normally. Conclusions. This article has discussed the reasons for some worries. Worries are such as about relationships, doing cultural activities and understanding their reading. And there are extra reasons some worry about these as well, such as not having the easy ride they used to have. It hasn't happened for some people yet, but they still hear what they think is innuendo it might do. However, don't make it worse for yourself by not doing anything you genuinely can cope with and like doing. Or if some normal things are hard, you can just watch the TV. That is usually easy enough for anyone. Then, you won't worry. Or take the pressure off by not putting demands on yourself that really aren't needed. And you can still enjoy a book and not worry you don't have good reading skills when they might already be quite adequate. That is if there weren't all these other things going around in your head. The end.